Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to the channel, The Silver Crown. If this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also click that little bell, the notification bell, so that you'll know every time I upload a video. Today, it's going to be a little bit of a different video. I had something come up. My husband and I had something come up here just recently that we wanted to share with you guys. I shared it on my other channel, but I'm also aware that not all of you are subscribed to both channels. And I think it's important that you know what's happening or what has been happening that some of you may not have been aware of, because we certainly were not. So this is not about hair today, although I will say I'm I'm just using it's not a two-strand twist, it's just two twists. Flat twist, two flat twists. It's one of my go-to styles when I'm too busy or too lazy to do a bunch of two-strand twist on my head, or I don't feel like doing a wash and go. It's really warm out, and I didn't want to do a wash and go because I don't want the ends of my hair to fry. So anyway, but I'm gonna upload this video here in a minute, and I want you guys to listen to what I'm saying to you, what we're saying to you. And please leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know if you have experienced this or not. And if you have, you can write me at the email address that's going to be up on the screen. And if you want me to share it on the channel, I will. If you don't want me to, I won't. But if you have a story similar to this, I would really like to hear it. I would really like to know, because we were completely ignorant of this situation. And anyhow, so I'm going to roll the clip, and then I will come back at the end.
We decided that we would go and withdraw some money from the bank just to have, a little ready money. And so when we went to the bank, I had thought the previous night that there might be some complications. Needless to say, I didn't worry my beloved about it
Nobody told
unnecessarily,
me.
unnecessarily, but I did tell her before we went into the bank there may be some little bit of holdup with the bank. She asked me why, and I said, it's just a hunch that I have. So we went into the bank, and she went up to the teller, and she took a withdrawal slip and wrote out a withdrawal slip. And the girl was all set to process the withdrawal slip, but she was in training. So the lady who was her training officer said, now you know what you're supposed to do, right? She goes, yes, give this lady her money. She says, nope, 1 second. And she referred her to the branch manager.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, no big deal.
No
No
big
big
deal.
deal. You guys know that we were having the house demolished and all that. Well, we had already taken out the money to pay the guy that was using his equipment to do it and all that. But then we thought, well, we better have some cash on hand. We don't usually have cash on hand, but I figured we better have some cash on hand. Anyway, so I go up to the window. I tell the lady how much I want. She writes it out on the withdrawal ticket, and then this other woman just appeared from from the right side of the counter. And then she, the lady that was in training didn't really know what all she was supposed to do. And she apologized to me. She says, I'm sorry. She says, I'm new here and I'm in training. I said, oh, no problem. And next thing I know, she says, the other lady that came up on the side of the counter, she tells the teller, you have to take this to the manager and for him to approve it or whatever. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. I'm from Philly. You ain't got to approve my money, okay? But let me just say, okay, so that sounded a little weird to me. All right, so I said, well, I'll just go sit over here and wait over here. So I just, kind of go over into the little lobby area and I sit there and I'm waiting for the manager's approval for me to get my money out of the bank. So I'm already starting to feel a little bit heated. But I thought, okay, just a stupid procedure, and then I'll get the money and I'll be on my way. Well, he comes bouncing over to me. Miss Carpenter? Yes. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm the branch manager. Yes. I understand you want to take out this amount of money? Yes. Then he sits down at the table where I'm sitting, and he looks at me, turns his head to the side, looks at me out the side of his eye and says, why?
Gives her the side eye. Seriously.
I was just floored. So I turned my head to the side, looked at him out the side of my eye and said, because it's my money.
And I want it.
And I want it. And he says, well, I understand, but that's a lot of money to take out. Okay. What do you want it for? Excuse me? We're about to have a big problem. Okay. What do you mean? Now my head is spinning, okay? Because I'm like, what is happening right now? What is going on? I walked into the bank. I told them how much money I wanted. And the guy is acting like I'm the criminal. Okay, they didn't have no problems with me putting the money in the bank. But I'm trying to get all this money out of the bank. And the guy wants to know why I want it. I was like, first of all, I felt violated that he would even ask me that. And second of all, why is it his business why I want the money?
Exactly. What do you need the money for? And Pat said, because it's my money and I want it. The money's in my account. It's my money and I want the money. He proceeded to sort of dance around the point, etc. And I said, well, we were thinking of purchasing another car. Well, we'll be happy to make you out a bank draft. I said, hold on. Just hold your horses. If you give us a bank draft, he says, yes, it's as good as money any day of the week. I said, suppose you give us a bank draft and the bank is closed. Then what are we going to do with it? Because it's not actually money. It's a promise to pay actual money. And he said, oh, no, well, that wouldn't happen. And besides, there's FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. If the bank were closed, the federal government would cover it. I said, yes, I suppose so. At some point in the mythical future, the federal government might decide to give you your money, but it's your money.
And by now, they're glaring at each other. And I'm sitting there totally confused about what is happening right now. This is my money. What's the big deal?
So he said, well, ever since the Patriot Act, there have been certain stipulations, etc., etc. And I gave him the look.
Ever since 9/11, he says.
And I said, we're not talking about structuring here, which is one of the reasons that the Patriot Act included banking regulations to avoid dirty money flowing through various places and coming out as clean money on the far side.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like, what's structuring? I don't even know what's structuring.
Who's structuring? In any case. So I said, it's our money. We'd like our money. He says, well, I'll be happy to give you a cashier's check or a bank draft, which is not the same thing as money. If you have it in your hand and it's legal tender, that's money. Any other instrument is not money because it doesn't have the same value. It's simply a promise to pay. Now, if you've ever bought anything like a car or a house or something along those lines, you know that it's very common for the bank to transfer the money by way of a bank draft to the vendor so that you, the purchaser, can take possession of the vehicle or house or whatever it is. But it's still not money. It's the same thing as, let's say, gold or silver. If you have gold, that's your gold. You're holding your gold.
Right.
If it's silver, that's your silver, and you're holding your silver. However, silver certificates.
Yeah, that's paper.
And,
that's just
and
paper.
Gold certificates
that's just
are
paper.
neither silver nor are they gold. And if anything should happen, which we pray won't be taking place, but at the same time, it's not actual money.
Well, by this time, they're glaring at each other. I'm trying to figure out what is structuring. I'm the only one of us in the three-way conversation that doesn't know what's happening. So Chris decides I have had it, and he left.
I looked at him. I could feel my dander rising. Let us say that the hackles on the back of my neck were going up.
Meanwhile,
and I asked him, he said there are limits that they put in place, and we have to report any amount transferred coming in or going out over a certain limit. And I said, and what is that limit? He said, I'm not allowed to tell you that. I said, is it specified in the Patriot Act? He said, yes, it is. And I said, and what does it say in the Patriot Act? He said, I don't know. You'd have to look up the act. By now.
and then you ask him, well, does the bank have a limit?
Yes, does the bank have a limit?
And he said, yes, it does. And well, what is that limit? Well, I don't feel comfortable telling you that. And I'm sitting there like, what is going on? Well, he abandoned me. He was just hot, and he went and sat on the other side of the room. So I'm sitting there. My head is spinning. I have never experienced anything like that.
No.
And I said, I don't understand what's going on. He says, your husband mentioned that you were thinking about getting a car. And I said, yeah, I'm thinking about it. And he said, well, wouldn't it be better if I gave you a bank draft for that? I said, well, no, because if I offer to pay somebody cash, they might want to reduce the price, And he says, that's just an awful lot of money to have sitting around in your house. And I said, well, who said?
Awful lot of money.
I said, who said? It wasn't to me.
No.
And I said, well, who said it was going to be sitting around in the house? But do you have a safe? I just looked at him. Because you know what? That ain't his business if I have a safe.
That's right.
My goodness. He says, because if you have a safe, I want to tell you a story about a client that we had that had $44,000 in his safe. And his safe was, what did he say? Was drilled into the floor or whatever. Yeah. And he says, and his house flooded. And I said, well, I guess he should have dried out his money. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking to myself,
so
is
what?
the ink water soluble?
I just dry out the money and go about your business. Anyhow. So, and I said, yeah, okay, so he should have just dried it out, right? And he says, well, we had another client. He says, well, not at this branch. Then he goes on to tell me about this other client that wanted to buy some land. And he came into the bank and he wanted $200,000. Now, I wasn't trying to take out $200,000.
No.
But he says he wanted $200,000. And he says, and that wasn't a problem. I said, and what I want to do is a problem? And he says, well, it wasn't a problem because we told him that we needed to see the deed to the land. Yeah. And he brought us the deed to the land. He said, so it wasn't a problem. I said, I don't understand why this is a problem. He says, ever since 9/11, anything dealing with cash has to be accounted for. Okay. He says, and this is an awful lot of money to just have in your house. Now, it didn't occur to me till a little bit later what he might have been trying to imply. But I was just sitting there just totally confused about why is it okay to have it in your establishment, but it's not okay when I want to take it out, especially when we've had so many problems with this branch, right? Yes. I mean, I had all kinds of reasons why I could just close. He says, you're right, it's your money. And I can give you the money, but you will probably get a letter and then you will get a visit. A visit? What do you mean a visit? He says, I'm trying to save you a lot of problems in the future. Yeah. If you want it, I will give it to you, but you're going to get a letter at which point I will be forced to close your account.
Yep.
And now I'm really shocked. Now my head is really spinning. And he says, and you will get a visit. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And the thing is, we had heard of something like this happening before, but I think it was like in California or something. Mm-hmm. but I didn't know all the details of it, right? So anyway, it was just absolutely shocking
Shocking.
that, that it took
Appalling.
me all day and part of the next day.
As a matter of fact, we went over to Sam's to get some groceries, and we were walking around with a little trolley, and I was loading up the trolley, and Patricia was picking up items, and then she just stopped in the middle of the aisle, come to a dead stop,
I couldn't believe it.
and look up like this. And I said, "Are you still trying to deal with the thing at the bank?" And she went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Yeah, I just couldn't. I couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't understand that level of control. And then I said, I just paid somebody cash money, a lot of money, to take a house down. And I told him how much it was. He says, well, that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay. And I said, so if I want to get a car, this is going to be a problem?
Oh, no problem.
No, he said, will you have it within 30 days? Well, I don't know. I'm not settled on a car yet. I just want to get a car. I know I want to get a car. I know what kind of car I want, but I haven't found it yet. I haven't settled on one yet. Well, you'd probably do better with a bank draft. That's a lot of money.
He did say also that's an awful lot of money to keep around the house.
Keep around the house.
Aren't you afraid of somebody breaking in and trying to steal it?
I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but I decided I was going to look up the Patriot Act because I had heard of the Patriot Act,
Yeah.
but I had never looked into it to see what it was about. And right now, you know, in our current political whatever
Climate.
there's investigations and stuff going on because of this thing called FISA. And there were abuses done by the Justice Department in regard to FISA, falsifying documents and all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? That thing is very broad reaching. Yeah. It was something like 36 pages or 39 pages. Yep. When I read through this thing. Excuse me. And in it says that, I don't remember seeing the amount in there, but it did say that if for some reason the bank or the FBI or Treasury Department feels like you're moving money, they can come, listen to me, to your house without a warrant. Yeah. Seize your property,
yeah,
all of your electronics,
yep,
any cash or monetary instruments.
Yes, which includes things like precious
gold,
metals,
silver, whatever, yeah, anything,
yeah,
that you have, they can seize it.
Fine art, vehicles, etc.
And you have to prove that you weren't moving it for terroristic reasons or whatever. I was just floored. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And he says, I'm back at the bank now. You know, he says, this only happens when you want to move large amounts of cash.
We're not talking about large amounts of cash.
Well, it wasn't to us.
No.
Okay, but I guess to the bank, it was a large amount of cash.
It exceeded the bank's limits, which are still somewhat nebulous.
Well, he won't tell us what the limit is. Oh my gosh. So anyway, we didn't know if you guys had ever been through that or experienced anything like that. I had heard of things like that happening. I have heard of banks seizing people's accounts and just seizing their assets and all that. So anyhow, this whole FISA thing is very far-reaching, is very broad. Yep. You can be investigated and all kinds of stuff done to you without a warrant.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, I think it's this coming week that they're supposed to be renewing this. Yeah. And there's some debate about whether it should be renewed the way it is because it is very broad. There's parts of it that clearly violates an American citizen's constitutional rights to privacy. Yeah. And so it's a big deal. It really is. And I'm telling you, I felt all kinds of things. I felt violated. I felt like I was being treated like a child that had an allowance. Yep. You know, I can't get but so much of my money at a time.
I know.
So then I said to him, you know what? What if I just just wanted to close my accounts out. And he said, you could do that, but they're going to want to know where the money went. Well, wherever I want it to go. He said, and that's the problem. They don't know where it's going. They want to know where it's going because there's been a lot of problems with a lot of cash. He said, once it leaves the bank, we don't know where it's going. We have to tell them that we don't know where it went.
Yep.
And then you'll get a visit.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. He said, I'm trying to save you a lot of problems. Well, I was just floored. Like I said, when I got home, I decided to look this up. And when I was reading through there, I didn't know whether to, I didn't know what to think. First of all, who knew that we were under those kind of constraints and restraints since 9/11? Who knew?
And they won't tell you until you bump up against one of their regulations, and then they'll say, oh, by the way.
By the way, yeah. I said, well, I've never tried to withdraw this sum before, so I didn't know. I had no idea. Anyway, oh my gosh.
We're the type of people who like to color within the lines. We're law-abiding. We do everything according to the law. And to find out that they can come, kick your door down with a no-knock warrant, take your computers, your phones, any other electronic device you might have lying around, all of your cash, all of your bank accounts,
any monetary
your vehicles,
instruments,
any monetary instruments,
anything,
and throw you in a hole in some black site somewhere.
Anyway, I was shaking, and I don't shake very easily. So anyway, that was quite the experience, and we decided to share that with you guys because we didn't know if either of you or any of you had ever been through anything like that. And if you had, what was your experience? Please put it in the comment section. Take your time. We want to know the whole story because I'm telling you, I'm feeling traumatized. I'm feeling traumatized. And I still don't have my money.
What is this, godless communist Soviet Russia or something?
Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, and I still don't have my money. So there you go. Anyway, I did leave with some money, but I reduced it greatly because I didn't want to end up in prison.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute. You're concerned about me being a terrorist. I'm feeling a little terrorized right now. Who's the criminal, me or you? You trying to hold on to my money. Do you understand this?
We need to sue the bank. You got PTSD.
Oh my
or
gosh.
PTSN.
I'll tell you what. Anyhow, leave your comments in the comment section below. This video has been a little bit long, but we had to tell you guys what happened. That was just crazy. And let us know if you ever experienced that or if you've heard of that happening to someone else that you might know, because we would love to hear that story. I'm telling you. You could also email me. I'll put the email address right there. You'll see it right there. And you can email us with your story. If it's interesting enough, I'll go ahead and read it to everybody else if you want me to. Now, if you don't want me to read it to everybody else, put that in your email. Don't read this to anybody else. But if you say, please share this, then I'll go ahead and share it with everybody else that's on the channel.
Yeah, we've been experiencing other types of weirdness. We were traveling. We stopped in the hotel, and what I do is I give them the credit card to secure the room, but I'd prefer to pay for the room in cash. We have traveling cash when we travel, so like if it's $100, I pay them $100 in cash. We stopped in this hotel. I said, I'll secure the room with the card, but I'd rather pay you in cash. Oh, we don't take cash.
Yeah.
What? Hang on a second. You know where it says this note is legal tender for all debts public and private in the United States? You don't take cash.
Yeah.
We heard of one fellow in California.
This might be why, though.
We heard of one fellow in California who went to discharge his mortgage. He had, $7,000 or $12,000 left on his mortgage. He brought in a bundle of cash, went to the bank to pay it off. They said, nope, we're not taking your cash. Can't do it.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
So, yeah, anyhow, the guy said it's only when it's cash.
Yeah.
He said if they can trace where it's coming from and where it's going to, that's no problem. He said, but when it's cash, they want to know. Well, now you know. If you didn't know before, you know now. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful for those of you who may not have known. Now you know. And I did what I forgot to say in the video was that I did call the bank back, and I spoke to the manager and asked him, was I rude to him? Because I was so shocked. I didn't know how I was coming across. And he said no. He said not at all. He says that's a typical response that we get from people, because he said it's true. It is your money, and it's a typical response. He said, and what I said to you was our typical answer. Okay, then. But I said, well, I wanted to apologize to you if I was rude. I didn't mean to be rude. I was just very shocked and taken aback by it. So anyhow, I will see you guys in the next video, and we will go from there. So I'll see you back on the channel the next time I come on. Keep it natural.